Welcome to yet another episode of Scotty Stories. Today we are joined by an incredible guest, John DeRiggi, who has over the last 16 years created characters for Oculus, Disney, Velan, Shell, Google, Marvel, Lucasfilm, Legendary Pictures, and the list goes on. John, that's so impressive, and I'm just so fascinated uh, by your experience. So I'd love to invite you into Scottish Stories. I think your insight would be extremely helpful to other Titans who might be interested in pursuing a route similar to your route. So do you how did you get into all this, and how did it all start for you?
Well, thanks for having me, Neville. Uh, Glad to chat with you for a bit.
Awesome.
Um, I got started as an artist from a really young age, like age 3, drawing. And I got into the 3D side of things specifically in college. Once I saw the movie Toy Story, when that first came out, the original in 1995,
Oh, wow.
I was in early high school then. So for me, that kind of solidified the direction I wanted to go in. Uh, and so I went to school for computer animation and ended up doing that at Westminster College and at the Art Institute of Pittsburgh when it was still here in Pittsburgh. Uh, and then I did a master's program at Carnegie Mellon, actually, in the Entertainment Technology Center, where Randy Pausch and Don Marinelli had formed that. I was thankfully the last class to actually have Randy Pausch as a professor before
Oh,
he
wow.
before he passed away. So
Or did you
it's
attend the
kind of
last
bittersweet.
lecture?
What's that?
Did you attend the last lecture?
I did, yeah,
Oh, wow. That's
yeah.
impressive.
So yeah, he's a great guy, and it was great to have him you know for all of his skills and talent, in person, for you know for the 2 years that I was there. So uh, sorry we don't have him around anymore, but glad we have his kind of his legacy and his knowledge still out there in the world.
And
So
it's very evident in what I'm able to see that you have done well for yourself, and you've created this wonderful animation characters. Is that what I call them? So I'm very curious about your thought process, really walking into this type of stuff. Like, how do you just come up with stuff? Do they ask for something specific, and then is do you have to figure out how to make it happen, or what exactly goes on at the back of your mind before doing this or creating this?
sure. So what you see on my site, uh, I mainly do as a character artist in the game industry. I primarily do the 3D part of a character, which includes sculpting the model that ends up in game, along with painting textures and creating materials that allow you to feel like, oh, this is shiny, or this is bumpy, or this is cloth, or whatever it might be. Um, so that's primarily the job of a character artist in games and in film. Uh, the designs themselves are done usually by a concept artist
Oh,
who
okay.
is doing that in 2 dimensions. So like here you can see this character from Heart Machine with our current game actually that we're doing kind of some live development with the community. Her name is Dro. She's this giant, wolf beast, and this is the 3D character in our game engine, Unreal Engine, which is used by many studios out there. So this is a 3D part. Here's the sculpture that it starts with. But everything
Wow.
starts with, I'll go down here and show this first. This is the concept right
Right.
there. So
Right.
this is where it's starting at, from our concept artist, Isaac Ramos, and he's
Right.
awesome. So I work pretty closely with him. He gets art direction from our art director, Alex, who's the founder of Heart Machine, the creative director. And then Isaac takes that direction and creates, the concept in 2D that you're seeing here. So
Right.
once we get this approved, I take this and create the sculpture you're seeing here, which is kind of like a clay sculpture, but I'm doing it digitally on the computer in a program called ZBrush, which is a digital sculpting program. It's a lot of fun.
Right. Yeah.
So once you get this, then I can take this and kind of make a game version of that, which you can see here, all these all these lines. This is essentially the geometry that ends up in the game. And then once I have the geometry, I can take that and paint on top of it to create this final look that you see in game with the textures. And for this game specifically, we're going for kind of like a toon cell shaded, look in our game. So it's kind of got like, outlines, and it's kind of got like a little bit of a watercolor, effect to it. So even though it's 3D, we're going for like a 2D kind of like toon, cell shaded look. So that's the process overall. And then someone else, once I make the model, someone else takes that model and puts like a skeleton inside, so that an animator can then take that skeleton and move it around like a puppet.
Oh, wow. Oh, and
So yeah, it's a very big team process.
yes.
Especially when you are working on any kind of game at even a slightly larger scale, you need specialists
Right.
who focus on individual parts of the process. So even within the character process, there's these various specialists like myself as a character artist, concept artist, a character animator, someone called a character technical artist or a character TD, and they're the person who puts the skeleton inside and makes sure it moves correctly, like the body of it deforms correctly. So, and then you have a bunch of other disciplines outside of characters too, from people who
Right.
create props and buildings and make the user interface and do game design, and all the engineers who are specialists as well in different parts of engineering. So yeah, it's a very large team process for sure.
Wow, it sounds very, very intense. To anyone who might be listening to this and is quite unsure about how to, uh, and isn't really sure on how to access this stuff, would you tell us more about your website and how to get to it and how to maybe explore some of the character animations that you've done?
Sure. So my site, if you want to check it out, is just johnderiggi.com. You can see it right there. Uh, if you want to get into character art specifically, I have some resources that you can also check out. This is my ArtStation page, which if you are interested in game art or film art of any kind, most people know about ArtStation. So I'd recommend checking that out if you haven't yet. But my resources or store is here on ArtStation,
And
and you
that's
can see
artstation.com/John DeRiggi
you got it.
/store, right?
Yeah, and you can get there from my website,
Right.
so that's accessible too. Um, and yeah, I made this document here a while back because I was getting a lot of similar questions about how to get into the industry as a character artist and what to do, what to do to prepare. So this is free. You can download this PDF for free. You just need a free ArtStation account and you can download it. So this is a great, I think, resource for answering a lot of questions that are common, like thinking about where to go to school, whether it's online or in person, things to focus on with types of characters based on what you're interested in, the business side of it a little bit, things like that. So hopefully that's helpful for folks too if they want to check it out more. Um, and I have a variety of other resources. Here's my Pinterest board. Where did that go? Let's see if I'll just get there. We go. So my Pinterest board has a lot of resources for kind of getting into the industry as well. So like here's industry programs, workshops, and events. This Pinterest board. Games and game studios, interviews, tips, podcasts. So there's a lot of information I've collected over the years about, the industry. I get a lot of inspiration that I've collected, training, reference, things like that. So if this is
Right.
useful for people too, this is also accessible from my website. That's kind of the hub. If you go to the bottom of my website, all these links are right there.
Right. Right.
So you
And
can
just
kind
to
of grab
yeah.
all those from my website as well. ArtStation, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Pinterest. So yeah, I
And
think
to
that should
reiterate on that, that's just John DeRiggi, JohnDeriggi. .com, right?
You got it.
And you mentioned you talk about where to go to school and that type of stuff. So I'd kind of love to talk more about your CMU experience. How was that, and how did it prepare you for what you do at the moment?
Sure. Uh, because the Entertainment Technology Center at CMU is a very project-based program,
Right,
master's program. It's not meant to be class-based where you're learning like specific skills. For me personally, that was a really good fit because I had already gone to school for this stuff in my undergrad, and I wanted a program that brought a bunch of different people together of different disciplines to work together on a project each semester, because that's what it's really going to be like in the industry, whether you're in games or film or whatever you want to go into in the entertainment field. So I personally thought it was a great experience because it combined, like I said, all those different types of people who you're going to be working with in industry, from writers to uh, people focused on music or sound effects to programmers, uh, people doing the business side of things. And you need to figure out how to work together properly to get a finished product, off the ground at the end of a semester or at the end of, 2 semesters. So in those ways, I think it was really great. It was really what I was looking for personally. So if someone is ready for that type of, setup, I'd highly recommend it. Um, I'm sure there's other programs in CMU that do a similar thing, but for me, the ETC in that regard was awesome.
right. And within the
So
art department at CMU, are there any specific programs or specific resources that you can think about that are really helpful in preparing you for life after school?
as far as like undergrad goes,
Whatever resources that you had at your program.
um, in the grad program I was in, we had a great uh, like career center as part
Right,
of it, and because the ETC was founded by Randy and Don, they had some connections with industry folks and industry companies already.
right,
So, and Carnegie Mellon in general has that, so it's not just restricted to the ETC. So I think that's a really big boon of Carnegie Mellon in general is you have insights into industry already. So what I experienced in the ETC was being able to leverage those industry connections right from the start when I was, in my first year in grad school. And that's not something you can say about every program. So as far as preparing you for the industry, I think that's super helpful because you can interface directly with those companies and some of the key like HR people or recruiters, or even in some instances some of the direct developers at the studios, as you're trying to figure out what job you want to get into, or what studio you want to go to. So that was one big thing for me. um, as far as other resources go, CMU definitely, as far as the art side goes, since I'm focused on art, it allowed you to take other classes if you wanted to as like side, you know, add-ons as part of the grad
right,
program. So
right.
you could go focus on animation classes if you wanted to. You could take other life drawing classes or things like that. Um, but I think the biggest thing that again was part of the ETC, um, that helped prepare me was the teamwork and working with interdisciplinary people and really understanding people's different perspectives in
Right.
not just a project but in a company setting, and using those perspectives to make a better experience, whether it's a film or a game or whatever it might be.
Right. And it strikes me, it seems to me that you've worked with all the big names in that, industry from Google to Oculus to Marvel. Like, how did that come about for you? How did you find these opportunities, which are very competitive and actually hard to come by?
Sure. A bunch of those I worked with as clients of Shell Games, because I was at Shell Games for almost 11 years, and because Shell had connections with Disney directly because of Jesse Shell's background. We did a lot of work with various clients over the years that were related to Disney. So you got Disney, you got Marvel. Once Disney purchased, Lucasfilm, we started doing work with Lucasfilm on Star Wars properties.
Wow.
So I was working on, all those all those various IPs, and it was awesome.
Oh, wow.
I got to connect directly with some of the teams from those different studios. Uh, my first project actually at Shell was on a interactive theme park ride in Disney World and Disneyland called Toy Story Mania.
Oh, wow.
So if you've ever been there, I was the I was the lead animation like person on the character side at Shell for that. So I directed
That's
the
dope.
animation team, kind of built the character pipeline, things like that.
Wow.
For me, that was a dream come true because Toy Story was the reason I got into the industry. So
Wow.
yeah,
S-
so it was pretty
s-
awesome.
That's awesome, man. And if you could go back to your, studentship days, what would be the one advice that you have for yourself?
uh, be brutally honest about what you want to do and what you want to focus on. And if you don't know enough of a specific focus, then try enough things out quickly to find that focus.
Wow. And that's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today, man. But before I let you go, I do have one question for you. Between Marvel Comics and DC Comics, who do you go with?
Uh, well, I guess I'll be super honest. I'm not consider myself a big comic book person,
Right.
but if I had to pick one, I'd probably lean in the Marvel direction for sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah, there was definitely a correct answer to that question, and you nailed it. So,
Well, I'm glad to know that I fit in with your expectation.
absolutely, man. There's only one right way when it comes to DC vs Marvel. Thank you so much, John, man. And this is so impressive. Again, if you want to keep in touch with John, there's a website, John DeRiggi, JOHNDERIGGI.com. So feel free to reach out if you will, and then there's a bunch of really cool stuff that I can see, but you might not be able to see it. A lot of really cool animation and animated characters and that type of stuff. So I'm really grateful to have had the opportunity to chat with you. So thank you so much. And I am glad to know that you are, an alumni of CMU. So thank you so much, and I hope to chat with you soon again.
Thank you, Neil.
Right.